Imagine your mother lives in a place she loves, but new research shows it may shorten her life by decades. 3 decades, in fact. Yes, 30 years. That means she will likely die before you get around to having children, given the latest stats on women giving birth. It jumped from 27 to 30 earlier this year, according to the US Census Bureau. So your mom may never live to see her grandchildren if she is a resident of Chicago's Englewood neighborhood, where people die at about 60, as opposed to Chicago's Streeterville neighborhood just a few miles away, where people live to 90, according to a recent New York University Medical School study. Chicago has the nation's widest gap in life expectancy in the country, based on where you live by zip code. What is not surprising are these areas' very different demographics, starting with race. Englewood is 95% black, while Streeterville is 73% white. But this trend transcends zip codes and affects everyone around the world, and we're not doing so well here in the United States. Our life expectancy is shockingly lower than that of our peer countries. We rank 46th or 68th in the world for life expectancy, depending on where you look. In general, people who live in the United States die 6 to 9 years sooner than people in other Western countries. Where you live dictates when you die. Rush University's Dr. David Ansel spoke about this in a 2018 TEDxChicago talk. He calls it the death gap. But should where you live, be it a community, a zip code, or a country, dictate when you die? Think about that for a minute. People in underserved communities often live in deficient, dilapidated housing where they can't thrive. They endure food scarcity that leads to poor nutrition. They often don't have access to food or schools, which inhibit their children from reaching their greatest potential. And they have insufficient transportation that prevents them from getting to work or school or even medical appointments. And often, many suffer irresponsible, gratuitous violence, which has repercussions for the perpetrators, the victims, and their families, and entire communities. Death, healthcare, race, and economics are intrinsically linked. Studies and scholarly works have shown this fact time and time again. And in Chicago, my hometown, I have heard the narrative about the dire situation on the south and west sides my entire life. Yet the south and the west sides of Chicago raised me. And were it not for the great education that I received in Chicago public schools and the ability to use my education as a launch pad for success, I would not be here today. In retrospect, those very neighborhoods that are so troubling to us today are responsible for preparing me for the healthy, fulfilling, and productive life that I lead today. Why? Yes, thank you. Why? Because I had access to all the things that I needed to survive and to thrive. I had caring parents who both had sustainable, well-paying jobs, adequate housing, we had enough food to thrive, good health care, peaceful neighborhoods, and yes, great public schools. Any of my fellow Whitney Young Dolphins in the house tonight? In other words, my social determinants of health were pretty good. They were even great. You've heard about the social determinants of health. They are the conditions that exist in the places where we live, seek religion, work, or even seek recreation that determine the quality of our lives. So I was able to learn the skills that I needed to learn to work my way up the socioeconomic ladder, support my family, and do meaningful work. My experience has taught me that while the social determinants are factors in the equation, it's critical to focus on creating something that encompasses all of these factors, a sustainable economy that we can all participate in, an economy that enables everyone to have access to basic human needs. So much has happened since I was a child growing up in South Shore. And not just in South Shore, but communities all across the South and West Sides. And viable solutions have evaded the best of the well-intentioned. So now, as someone who has lived experience on the South and West Sides, let me tell you what I think. I believe that we can achieve better health and better lives on every level through science. The life sciences, to be exact, and the kind of innovation districts that they are inspiring. And I'm talking about something very different than the neighborhoods that boast high life expectancies, like swanky areas in cities' urban cores that sport luxury high-rises, fancy restaurants, and exclusive private schools, or even idyllic suburbs with beautiful homes on spacious lots, wide, tree-lined streets, and the best public schools your taxes can buy. There's no industry in these places. Public transit is rarely the main mode of transportation. And most people who live in these enclaves, they drive everywhere they go. Instead, I'm talking about life sciences innovation districts. These are the places where all of those things that I mentioned earlier, the social determinants of health that we need to survive, are right at hand in the same geographic area. Think of it as a one-stop shop where people can live, work, play, shop, and even raise their families. Services and schools are nearby, and everything is walkable. There is a new model in American geography that is emerging thanks to the life sciences and today's demographic megatrends, which actually coalesce. So let me explain. The life sciences are a vast sector that includes everything from research institutions and government agencies to private business and healthcare providers. And they embrace an incredibly broad range of disciplines. Think biotechnology, pharmaceuticals, healthcare, data management, medical devices, and more. The life sciences help us fight disease, feed our families, combat climate change, and even find new fuel sources. The list is endless. But they are built on collaboration, and they cannot survive without alliances, partnerships, frameworks, and cooperation. This is a lesson that we learned all too well from COVID-19, which manifested and fast-tracked the importance of all of these industries. And not surprisingly, given our focused offensive to handle COVID, the life sciences are growing exponentially and creating lots of different types of jobs. Not just jobs for scientists and engineers and entrepreneurs, but for all of the people who support those jobs, like food service operators, retail clerks, coffee shop operators, facility managers, and biotech manufacturing technicians. And this is where the demographic megatrends come in, and none of these will surprise you. First, our population is becoming increasingly diverse. In fact, the US will be a majority-minority nation by 2040. Second, younger generations want a healthier, more sustainable, and time-efficient lifestyle, which means they don't want to waste time, hours in the car driving their kids to school or going to work. And third, today we are seeing an increase in societal, legal, and corporate mandates to infuse diversity, equity, and inclusion, and sustainability into every aspect of our culture, especially since there's so much research that shows that DEI increases productivity and profitability for business, and improves culture for corporations, communities, and all types of organizations. At the same time, diverse workers are demanding more and better choices for where they live and work and play. This is fueling demand for more walkable neighborhoods that have housing, retail, services, and amenities. And in turn, creative institutions and firms are listening to their workers, who also crave proximity to their peers so that ideas and knowledge exchange can happen more seamlessly and quickly. The result is that life sciences companies and institutions, spurred by today's megatrends and concerns for the productivity of their companies, are altering where they are locating. In the process, they are reinventing how our buildings and districts are designed. I'm talking about districts where leading-edge institutions, research institutions, and major companies cluster together and connect with startups, business incubators, and accelerators. They are physically compact, transit-accessible, tech-enabled districts that include mixed-use housing, office, retail, and other amenities. Essentially, these are full-blown communities that are a destination for so many, but a home for so many others, no matter what your ethnic group. But they must be done correctly, and designing these districts is no small feat. They must be developed responsibly so they create economies that will improve the quality of life and healthcare outcomes of not only those who live and work in them, but for the areas that surround them as well, ideally entire cities. That means they require intentional, strategic development. And as a public health professional and life sciences real estate developer, that concern is always top of mind at the company where I work, and for good reason. These districts can change economic success and what it looks like for Chicago and many other cities, and transform the lives of the most vulnerable among us. This is what a life sciences hub can look like. Here are where all those jobs are, and where all of the people will live and work and play. And here are some of the numbers behind a life sciences hub of this scale. The new jobs that it can create, the impact it has, and the enduring social impact that it can make. Look at those numbers. Life sciences innovation districts create many more jobs to support them, much more business activity where they are sited, and jobs for everyone on both ends of the educational scale. And my favorite part is this last statistic. 40% of life sciences jobs only require a high school diploma or GED. Isn't that incredible? Bottom line, the life sciences generate returns that benefit everyone in a community. They foster and promote diversity in the workplaces and the contiguous areas around them. And they create equity. They're a gift that keeps on giving, because for every dollar invested in life sciences districts yields exponential returns. And over time, that yields exponential reinvestment and growth. These districts have the power to transform lives of those who experience health care and life expectancy disparities, not just here in Chicago, but all across the nation and the world. They are not just for the superachievers or the wealthy, but for everyone who live in them, from every walk of life, every race, and every demographic group. Life sciences districts improve everything about the quality of life for all their residents, as well as their healthcare outcomes. And research has shown that these districts do even better when they are in close proximity to low and moderate income neighborhoods. And at a time of inefficient land use extensive sprawl, and continued environmental degradation, they present the potential for denser residential and employment patterns, allowing us to leverage mass transit and help to repopulate urban cores. But here's perhaps the most important reason why we must advance the development of more of these districts now, and not next year or in the next decade. The life sciences industry is focused on innovation and advances and breakthroughs that often take years, if not decades, to finalize, approve, and bring to market. But COVID-19 has shown us that not only can we move quickly when we must, but also how critical the life sciences are and will continue to be to all of us. And by that, I mean all of humanity. There is no other industry with the amplification effect on economics for people living in underserved communities than the life sciences. Life sciences innovation districts have the power to amplify their many assets and make a community much more than the sum of its parts. They can offer people at every end of the economic scale the same kind of quality of life that we all want to enjoy. And through the life sciences and the innovation centers that we build, people will live longer, healthier lives. And if we can do this, all of those mothers out there who mirror the most recent birth trends that I stated at the beginning of this talk can breathe a little easier. Yeah, I'm from an area on the south side of Chicago where there's a significant death gap, and my daughter is 21. I'll be pretty close to 60 by the time she has a child, if she has a child at 30. Well, I want to see my grandchild or my grandchildren grow up. So it's time to get going, Chicago, and not only eradicate the death gap here, but also get back those 6 to 9 years of life expectancy that we've lost as a nation. That's why I'm betting on life sciences innovation districts to help us live longer, healthier, and more productive lives, to erase the death gap and create a more equitable life for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.